This is Pukeology Podcast, where science meets your hilarious puke stories and the tips and tricks to stop that up-chuckle that you need.
You never know what's going to spew out of her mouth. Here's
my mama,
Dr. Pukeology.
Do you want to conceive twins, but you have no twins in your family? Or maybe you want to do a one and done pregnancy and get two for the price of one. This podcast is the doctor's edition of how to make twin babies with the best kept fertility secrets coming up in today's episode 71, How to Conceive Twins. Do you want no more morning sickness, pregnancy nausea, or how about no more headaches or migraines? Visit our sponsor, nomonausea.com, the only natural way to instantly stop your worst nausea, vomiting, and headaches now, and get 25% off with the code PUKE25. That's PUKE 25. Or just place your no more nausea ban on your baby registry for your delivery room bag at Bye Bye Baby, or get it shipped for free in just 2 days on Amazon as a Prime vendor. That's also where you can find products for your little ones, like No More Nausea Kids and No More Sleepless Nights Kids. The sleep one works on moms with small wrists too, now available at your local Walmart stores and some CVS's. Pregnancy humor that you're going to hear that may just make you want to pee your pants. Like you don't have to pee all the time anyway, with hilarious stories like Popcorn Paradise or Nightmare, Pop Goes the Sick Weasel, and Baby Bird's Nest. If you want to learn more about your pregnancy, humor and knowledge is the key to help you survive these 9 months. And just know we're in this together. Today, you will learn the science behind the types of twins, 8 interesting facts you probably didn't know about twins, and natural ways to help you get pregnant with twins. So if you're trying to conceive twins or already have 2 buns in the oven, or maybe even 1, this pregnancy podcast will keep you fully entertained, and I'm not twinning around. In today's Pregnancy Pukeology Podcast, episode 71, How to Conceive Twins, Doctor's Edition.
The science of puke, Pukeology.
So you're probably trying to wonder, how common are twins in pregnancy? Well, to be honest with you, the evidence or the incidence of conceiving twins is actually on the rise. The current studies show that universal prevalence of twins births period is about 3%. That's pretty large on a scale of an entire world average. However, twin births also tend to affect one type of subgroup more than the others. So if you are Black, you have a higher chance, or African American, I should say, have a higher chance versus Caucasians and Asians. And that's just statistically. What you also probably don't know is that twins account for 1 in 250 pregnancies. You have to remember there are multiple different types of twins, okay? So let's get into them. What are the different types of twins? Twins gestation is the commonest form of multiple pregnancies, meaning when you're pregnant with multiples, whether that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, oh yeah, you can hold a lot of babies in there. Twins is the most common, obviously next to just having one single baby. There are 2 broad types of twins. We have the monozygote and also a dizygotic. So both zygotes, meaning the actual baby, monozygote, meaning 1 zygote, and then dizygote is 2. So a monozygote, this type of twin, it occurs when 1 single ovum is fertilized and splits into 2 babies. So usually the division occurs within 72 hours after fertilization. Monozygote twins have a similar genotype and phenotype, thus are referred to as identical twins. So again, if you have 2 twins that look identical, which I do, I'm a cheerleading coach, and I have 2 that I literally cannot tell apart. I have to ask them, there's 1 mole on one versus the other. They would be considered, they're considered identical twins. And so around a third of the twins are actually identical. So identical twins share the same DNA. Now, zygotic twins, they occur when a woman releases 2 eggs during ovulation that get fertilized by 2 different male sperms. Therefore, the twins tend to have different genotypes and variable phenotypes. Dizygotic twins are usually non-identical. So we actually call those fraternal, meaning fraternal twins, 2 separate eggs are fertilized. And again, a lot of times women with hyperovulation, also another thing that can happen is if you're taking fertility medication, right? So multiple eggs are actually being released, and those sperms just happen to have 2 Olympic swimmers in their little pool, right? So you have to remember that each fraternal twin, again, they have their own unique set of DNA, and they're similar just to like any other sibling. The only difference is they share a womb. So how to have twins naturally? Well, getting pregnant while breastfeeding, or during breastfeeding, I should say, you're producing more prolactin hormone. And there are hormonal fluctuations that may increase your chances of getting pregnant with twins. So if you are daring, I should say, and you want to go for it while you're breastfeeding is actually the best time. Now, I know that there's this old wives' tale, that you cannot get pregnant while you're breastfeeding. Ladies, as a physician, I'm going to tell you that many of my patients have been pregnant while they were breastfeeding. So again, you might only have like a little spotting for your period, or you might not actually get your period at all, but that doesn't mean that you can't get pregnant. It's kind of like the same, that same old wives' tale that you can't get pregnant while you're on your period. That's totally not true either. So I have one perfect baby as an example that it can happen. So, however, it is necessary that you exclusively breastfeed for the first 6 months to make sure that your baby gets the nutrients it requires. And again, I say exclusively, but if you are looking to pass on your different type, your immunology, or basically your protective mechanisms to the baby, you need to breastfeed, and you have to do it very often. Okay, so you have to remember that it's about every 2 hours that you need to be breastfeeding to make sure that they're getting your antibodies. So if that's what you want to do, awesome. Again, I know that I have spoke at many La Leche conferences and many other type of women in breastfeeding conferences. But again, there is nothing that determines your baby's health better than you. Okay. So again, while you're breastfeeding the first 6 months, the baby gets the nutrients that it needs. I'm a perfect example of a mom that just didn't make enough, so I had to supplement with formula as much. All right. Number 2, so plan to conceive late in your reproductive years. Okay. That sounds really bad. Okay. So after the age of 35, we get this beautiful sticker, and it's called advanced maternal age, right? AKA you want to stamp a dinosaur on there. But I actually go into it in a lot more detail in a different podcast that I did, because there are different kind of safety things I will tell you. And a lot of it has to do with different type of genetic testing. So if you're interested, go back. A lot of women over the age of 35 will get genetic testing, because after 35, it increases the risk of having chromosomal issues. That's the reason why mothers that are past 40 have a higher prevalence of a syndrome called Down syndrome with their children. Episode 56, it's called Genetic Testing While Pregnant. It's also Pregnancy Pukeology podcast. Go check that out if you're really interested. It doesn't just go through the different genetic testings, but it shows what it shows and why. But what I'm trying to say is, if you plan to conceive in your late reproductive years, studies have shown that women who get pregnant when they are older than 30 years old have a higher chance of getting twins. This is because their ovaries are more than likely to release more than one egg, or I should say release more than one mature egg during ovulation. Also, these women are at an increased risk for wanting to have children now, right? So again, a lot of times they'll go see a fertility specialist, and they'll be on different types of medication that makes them drop eggs like they were a chicken. So again, all of those things kind of accumulate together. So if we're looking at the statistics, when they see, wow, there's a lot more women above the age of 30 who are getting pregnant with twins. Yes, they do have more mature ovaries, and those ones, or the eggs, excuse me, not ovaries. They have eggs that are mature, and they're kind of dropping them more frequently. But it's also very common to see that these women are also on some sort of fertility medication, just because time is not necessarily on their side. So number 3, I'm going to say this very lightly, gain more weight. Okay, let me explain. Having a body mass index above 25 has been shown to increase your likelihood of getting pregnant with twins. However, excess weight can harm your health and actually decrease your fertility. So again, there is that sweet spot, right? It's the Goldilocks theory. You don't want to be too skinny. You don't want to be too fat. You want to be just right. So again, body mass index above 25. So again, try to keep it right around that 30. Okay, 30 seems like it's the magical number. So how can you tell that you are pregnant with twins? Well, the surest way to first detect that you're pregnant with twins is obviously an ultrasound, because they're going to be able to hear 2 heartbeats. They're going to be able to see two babies in there. However, there are telltale signs which you could suggest that you are heavily or more than likely pregnant with twins. Number 1, having early and very noticeable pregnancy symptoms such as nausea and vomiting. I know a lot of you guys probably have no idea, but women who have twins actually have a stronger or worse morning sickness. And the reason why is because the HCG, the human chorionic gonadotropin hormone, is much higher in twins. Okay. And that hormone is what is one of the culprits causing you nausea, right? So again, the good news is that usually morning sickness ends by 12 to 14 weeks, but who cares, right? Because we all have no-mo-nausea bands. So no-mo-nausea is an essential oil-infused acupressure wristband. You literally put it on, you smell it, and it stops the actual vomiting sensation that you might get with morning sickness. Now, it also helps to combat nausea also. So it is used inside of the hospital. It's used inside of delivery rooms as well to decrease nausea and vomiting in that sense, but it's also used actually for post-operative nausea and vomiting. So if that tells you anything, there is a wristband, and there's only one like it because it is patented. So it's an essential oil infused acupressure wristband. No more nausea. Go grab one. You will thank me later. So you don't have to suffer for 14 weeks themselves. All right. So you can also suspect that you are pregnant with twins if you're having a rapid weight gain, meaning it is just you're on the scale and boom, it's just flying away. You also having a large fundal height. That suggests higher than gestational age. So it's obvious that the twin will be stretching your uterus more, thus having a larger fundal height than the normal gestational age. And again, the fundus, so you can actually feel the fundal height. So if you go to your actual pubic and you'll continue, so you'll feel that from below, and then you actually feel how high you are going above that belly button. So again, this is something that your OBGYN, your nurse, whoever it is that's actually taking care of you, will be able to identify your fundal height. Listening to more than one fetal heart rate, of course, that's how you can tell that there's 2 babies. And again, when the fetal heart rates are 10 centimeters apart, it actually suggests that you are carrying twins, because sometimes they do have a heart rate that are like one into the other. But again, sometimes you can actually get them where they're 2 separate babies, so they're going to have 2 separate heart rates. All right, bottom line, getting pregnant comes with challenges for both mothers and unborn babies. It is recommended to attend your regular prenatal, antenatal visits early as you conceive and throughout your pregnancy during birth. This way, your doctor can kind of have a better understanding, can detect and manage different complications as early as possible. What I think is really cool is that you have to remember that the babies can grow differently, right? So each twin will, even identical twins, will have a varying birth weight, okay? And again, your maternity care provider will want to really keep an eye on you and monitor you a little bit more than usual, just because you've got 2 babies to worry about in there. And one more thing that I do want to share, just because I thought it was so interesting, that the twins begin bonding inside of the actual womb. So the twins seem to show a social behavior between each other. Again, remember, they are kind of wired together, right? They interact all the time. They've been together since the very beginning. And an Italian researcher actually studied several sets of twins before birth and found this interaction, and the bond begins even before birth. So an ultrasound showed that at 14 weeks, the twins seemed to reach out to each other, and they may even seemed kind of like gentle, right? When they're reaching towards their twins' eyes. So every set of twins is unique, but there is a special bond, and it's very interesting in my, in my thought. One more thing. Oh, I totally forgot. So some of you guys might actually carry the twin gene. I know we talked about before, if you don't have any twins in your family, then you might not carry it. But if you are expecting identical twins, however, if you're expecting fraternal twins, you might have this twin gene, okay? In your family, families do carry a few sets of twins, and if this is happening, you could potentially have a syndrome of hyperovulation. Hyperovulation is when a woman can release more than one egg during ovulation. And again, this is kind of like the belief that twins, quote unquote, runs in the family, but it skips a generation. Research doesn't show any proof of this. However, males can inherit and pass along the gene to their daughters. And this might be the reason why we see twins skipping a generation. Obviously, men aren't ovulating, so this gene wouldn't impact their fertility, but it can impact their daughters. All right, let's listen to some really funny puke stories, because these ones are one of my favorites.
Throwing up on a Tuesday? One puke story.
I know why little kids sell popcorn in a huge bin. Once you pop, you just can't stop. And that was the story of my life during my second pregnancy. I started on one section of the popcorn bin and ended up eating the whole thing. My stomach was so upset, but I didn't think anything about it until I went to go pick up my little one from VPK. And on the road to get there, I got car sick and threw up all over the entryway to school. The safety officer asked me if I was okay and said, "What were you eating? It looks like bird food." I was so embarrassed and felt so sick. I haven't had the stomach to have popcorn again during this pregnancy. Thanks again for your crazy, hilarious puke story, Lee. I definitely understand the feeling of not being able to eat something after you've given up your cookies too much. Number 2, I haven't been afraid of clowns and circus stuff since I was little. I don't know why, it just creeps me out. We decided to take our daughter to the circus, and I wasn't but 8 weeks pregnant, so we weren't going to tell anybody yet. A clown creeped up behind me with a ferret and was singing the song "Pop Goes the Weasel." I got so scared, I jumped up and immediately started vomiting on the clown's shoes. I know he had paint on, but I'm sure his face was that of like the grossest woman like ever is standing in front of me. We have decided not to forego the circus for our next bundle of joy. My grandma's boyfriend was playing with the kids and poking their bellies on each other, especially their belly button. The kids decided to do it back to him, and again, his shirt was a little high. They put their finger right through his belly, and all of a sudden it went all the way inside of his belly button. They must have swooped it around when they pulled their finger out. It looks like a bird's nest that was lodged in there. Me being 8 weeks pregnant, I immediately started vomiting. When I was done, I asked him, "Have you ever cleaned your belly button?" He said no, and since I work in surgery, the clean belly buttons are a must. I started dry heaving a second time. Guess I couldn't keep my pregnancy from my mom any longer after that fact. Thanks so much, Amanda, for that hilarious puke story. I think we all should know by now, clean your belly button. Do you have a hilarious puke story that you just can't wait to share it with me? Send it to me. Pukeology, Pukeology at nomonausia.com, nomonausia.com, or tweet me at Pukeology so we can all have a good laugh.
Tips and tricks to stop the up-chuckle that you need.
All right, now to the amazing part. So how to get pregnant with twins fast. Okay, so here are some characteristics that can increase your odds or your chances of giving birth to twins. So if you don't want to wait to just get jiggy with it or to wait to conceive twins, here are some things that you can do to get pregnant fast with two bouncing babies. All right, and by the way, I do have an entire podcast on, when it comes to pregnancy, right? And we talk about getting pregnant fast and what are some ways. I know that in idiopathic infertility is something that is running rampant, especially in the United States. Idiopathic means of unknown, and then infertility of unknown infertility and why that's happening. So I actually dedicated because all of my friends suffer with idiopathic infertility, and I dedicated an entire episode. It's Pregnancy Pukeology Podcast, episode 62. Why am I not getting pregnant? So if you know anybody or your friends, please send it to them, because sometimes those encouraging words can help. And that kind of goes into what are some things to help increase fertility and what are some things that you shouldn't do, because remember, it's not just about an egg and a sperm. It's about sticking to the sidewalls. So there's a few things that we always, as physicians, tell our patients. If you're trying to get pregnant, you need different types of responses, like an immune response. You also need to make sure it's nice and sticky in there inside of the uterus. All right. So let's get into how to get pregnant fast with two babies, aka twins. Number one, conceive while on family planning pills. Okay. Contraceptive pills cause hormonal fluctuations, which may act in your favor of getting twins. Your chances of getting twins after you have ceased taking oral contraceptives increase your chance of having multiples. However, it is necessary that you exclusively breastfeed for the first 6 months to make sure that your baby gets the nutrients it requires and grows and protects. I don't necessarily, I threw that in there again as breastfeeding because remember, we talked about breastfeeding increases your chance of having a baby, right? Of having multiples. They found that a higher chance of breastfeeding women will conceive multiples because you're pulling out that prolactin. All those hormones are coming in a very large drove. So you may be hyperovulating and throwing in more. But if you already have one baby, I will tell you, adding two more seems a little rough. All right, number two, take fertility treatments or medications. So fertility treatments, such as in vitro fertilization, can stimulate your ovaries, leading to the release of more than one egg at a time. And this can lead to twins, triplets, quadruplets. Another thing is if you are not just taking fertility medication, but if you are undergoing IVF, in vitro fertilization, they can and will fertilize multiple eggs because of the fact that they all might not stick. So you have a higher chance of getting more than one to stick because they put 4 and 5 into you depending. All right, number 3, take supplements such as folic acid. So if you plan to conceive twins, it is recommended that you take folic acid supplements at least a month before getting pregnant. Folic acid not only increases your odds of conceiving twins, but it also reduces your chances of the baby developing different neural tubal defects. And I actually talk about a bunch of what neural tubal defects are and why should you be taking a prenatal vitamin in episode 3. Why take prenatal vitamins? So I think that it's pretty interesting that we can see how even twins, right, getting pregnant with them, how they're going to grow differently. But more importantly, what are your birth options? So birthing twins is considered more high risk. It doesn't mean that there aren't options for you. So while a lot of OBGYNs will probably talk to you about having a scheduled C-section. It's not necessarily necessary, right? Do plan on having the babies earlier. So most twins go only up until 35 weeks, 36 weeks at the very latest. And again, there are some moms who, man, they can hold them in there, and I have a best friend who was on fertility medication, and she has her 2 boys, and she went to 38 weeks. I was shocked that her OB even allowed it, but you have to remember that, to each its own. Everybody is very, very different. So again, 60% of twins are born at 37 weeks. While some moms will go to 40, it is highly, highly unlikely. So again, a NICU stay is not necessary with twins unless they've had a true preterm birth. I hope I've given you amazing information about twins, what type of twins, how to make twins, and even more importantly, what you need to take in order to get the desired result, 2 babies for 1 shot. Do you love Pregnancy Pukeology podcast? Let me know. Give me 5-star ratings or hearts for likes, and don't forget to download this episode. But more importantly, share it with all your prego friends. Thanks again for listening to Pregnancy Pukeology podcast, episode 71, How to Conceive Twins.
Pukeology podcast, edutainment at its finest.